Hey YouTube! This week we're going to get into some of the really fun bits of technoBox2. I've got loaded up here a pattern and some drums, and as you hear, that pattern on the synth sucks. So a way to fix that without getting involved in doing all the manual step sequence editing is to hit the shift key over here, which works just like your computer's shift key. You hit the shift and 1 and you get an exclamation mark. And this, you hit the shift key, it's more like a caps lock key because it stays lit. And now the button that's up here that says gate turns into a randomize button. Wow, that already sounds a lot better, right? And if you hit, notice I turned off the shift. If you hit clear in the normal mode, it resets everything to being on with a gate and a middle C. But if you have it shift and you hit clear, it clears out all of the gates. So you see it's still got a C lit, but the gate is not lit on any of these steps. I also wanted to show you the effects section in greater detail. We've used that before in previous episodes, but I never really explained what all of the various effects are doing, so let me switch over to blank drums and a simple pattern here. This is just a whole bunch of C's, and as you see, I've got synth 1 selected. Now I've got no effect going on, right? Now I've got synth 1 selected, and here's the distortion, which, as you can hear, is distorting. And it's got a couple of different types on that. So you've got one that's like this. They called it in the manual a fold-back distortion. And this is the diode distortion. And here, that's got a little bit more of an aggressive sort of edge to it. And then there's also the crunch, which is a bit crusher. And this is actually changing the sample rate down to like Atari and Nintendo era. This can be a lot of fun. I better move on before I get distracted here. The phaser is particularly interesting as it takes your audio and splits it off into 2 signal paths. And one of those is treated with an all-pass filter, and the other one is treated with a bandpass filter. And you may recall from all of our other videos here, the filter is what's changing the frequency that we're cutting off at and we're resonating at and all this other stuff. Well, this is taking it and splitting it into 2, and then it's throwing them out of phase. But you don't really have to understand that because it's pretty self-explanatory. The amount here changes how much of our signal is getting pumped into the phaser. And the depth is determining just how wide of the phasey sound we're getting. And the phaser controls how fast it's going to go back and forth between those. So you can shape it just a little bit. Say, hey, I just wanted a little bit of my signal going in there. And I only want it to go out of phase just a little. And now I got it going out of phase just a little with just a little signal going in. But I got the phaser part going back and forth really rapidly. And if you turn on the sync function, it's going to lock it to your BPM so that it sounds better when you throw in drums. See, without that, it's not really keeping in time with the drums. The delay over here on the right does not behave the way it says it should in the manual, so don't listen to that at all. To better demonstrate this, let me switch over to our pattern that we've been using previously. And as you hear, raising the amount hasn't done anything, but it has in fact started sending the signal over here. In order to actually start hearing something, you're going to have to use the damp knob. Oh yeah, you're hearing that instantly, right? This is acting like a dry and wet, so over here it's dry, we're not hearing any amount of the delay. And now you get all kinds of delay. And you control the time of the delay with the time thing here. So over here it's like a eighth note. Here it's a 16th. That's a quarter. You can go all the way up to like a whole bar, but as you hear, that's pretty much just canceling itself out since it's playing the same bar over. With the feedback, you take the signal that you're creating with this delay and you play that back through the delay, so you can get really wild with that in a hurry. See, now all we're hearing is that feedback, and you can hear that starting to distort. You can kind of play around with that, but honestly, I'm just going to reduce that right now. If you do find yourself in a feedback loop, you can quickly get out of it dropping the damp. That's handy to know. So now you pretty much understand everything that's going on inside a technobox. So let's build a song. Let me play for you briefly the individual synth patterns I've programmed in here. As you see, drums 5 is blank, and that's helpful for when I want to drop out the drums altogether. So my first synth pattern, and this is true on both, is all C's. And here's a variation of that pump panel pattern we've been playing with. Yeah, this is that traditional pump panel sound. And over here is a slight variation. I'm playing with the up and down notes a little bit. So, and 5 is also supposed to be clear. I'm going to go change that right now. Alright, so 5 is clear for both the drums and the synth. So I can always pop over there whenever I need to kill anything. So we're in position 0. Let's start off with just the drums doing a kick. And we got our synth just starting off with this high energy C, right? And now we're switching over to the second one, which is position 1 because we're starting from 0 in our counting here. So we're starting into our variation, and let's switch over to position 2. We're going back to that same variation, and now we're going to change the drums. I want to keep it on pattern 4 of the drums for a couple of bars here. So you see we're going between 3 and 4, playing essentially the same thing. And over here on position 5, I'm going to change up everything altogether here and throw in the more traditional pump pattern sound. And I'm going back to 4 to listen to how that transitions. So here I'm doing something kind of dramatic there with the drums, dropping them down. You know, we got all kinds of drums going on here on 4, and then so I'm listening to how that sounds. So we're making a pretty huge transition here from one synth pattern to another synth pattern and an entirely different drum pattern. And I want to come back in on that really hard-sounding ride. So let's listen to what we've got so far here. We've got 6 patterns, so I'm going to change the loop thing here to... Wow, this is hard to do when I'm... Alright, let's just listen to what we've got. We've got 7 positions, 0 through 6, and they start off like this. right, I'm liking that so far, so let's keep building on that. Going over to 7, I'm going to keep that same pump panel pattern going on. And now I'm throwing in our pattern that's got all these hats. I'm going to do that for 3 bars here. And then I want to break off from all those hats with all these rides and opens. And now we're going straight back into our more solid pattern here. Let's listen to how this is sounding now that we've doubled this. It's kind of a pain in the ass to set the tempo and the end and start point, so since it's on 13, I might as well just add in a 13 here, and let's hear what this sounds like. So you see how that's pretty much the makings of a song, right? I'm doing this in a tremendously truncated version here where I've got all the various changes that you would expect over the course of, 3 or 4 minutes happening in the space of about 30 seconds. But you get the general idea here of just advancing through here with the step position buttons and picking which parts you want where and throwing in the variations that you want to hear, as well as listening out for when you want to change the tempo, just to give them a drop out the bass, jump in and do something here and there. So now it's pretty easy to just take what we've already got here. We got, let's say that instead of 13 bars here, we had 130 bars. And we're doing all these changes over time a little bit slower. The way that you can now take this and record it is by simply hitting the record button here and play, and it's going to start creating a wave file. So everything that I'm doing right now is being recorded into a wave. Obviously, that's going to work better when you have more than 14 positions in your song. But you notice that as soon as I hit the stop button, it stopped recording that. And I got to warn you, it only saves one recording wave file at a time. So if you now hit record again and start recording, you're going to wipe out whatever you just did. But let's say you got a great take, you're playing with all your knobs, you're having lots of fun, and now you think that the rest of the world should hear how amazing you sound. Hit the upload button, and it takes you into your SoundCloud account, or encourages you to sign up for a SoundCloud account, and tying it into technoBox2, and now you can upload directly to SoundCloud, and which you can then tie to your Facebook, and now you can force your music upon the world. Well, that about covers technoBox2. We could stop right here, but I want to take you further down the rabbit hole. Before we do that, though, I need some feedback from you guys. What do you want to learn? I know where I want to take the series, but I want to make sure I'm covering the stuff that you're interested in as well. I'm going to put the series on a hiatus for a little while as I gather your feedback, so please leave comments here, or if you do not have a YouTube account, you can go to discord.com where you can leave comments without signing up for anything. You can also reach me on Google Plus as well as Gmail. In the meantime, keep practicing. The only difference between you and a musician is taking the time to become a musician.